Hi, everybody. We're back again in week 2 with Health Hangouts with Amanda. And today we have Rosa with us, who is a counselor on our Strength Counselling team. Rosa, I believe you've been with us for a year, just over a year and a half.
No, yeah, almost 2 years.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's been such a joy to work with you and get to know your style. And so Rosa is probably the funniest person I know.
And the humblest.
Definitely the funniest person on the team. The humblest. Yeah.
And the
So
humblest, yes.
we are doing these videos to spread strength, hope, and love to those viewers who are not asking for help, and people who don't know how to ask, people who are really struggling, and we're just, I'm going to post one video per day until we're allowed to go back in the world. And I have no idea how many that will be, but I'm prepared for that. And I'm excited for all the people we're going to talk to and to share that with you. So I've invited Rosa here today to chat about what she's doing to cope with everything that's happening around her, how she's taking care of herself, her loved ones, and what she's doing for the community around her. So yeah, so Rosa, if you want to jump in and just say a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go from there. Welcome.
Thanks, Amanda. Amanda is mostly right. I am the funniest person she knows, but in comparison to other amazing comedians out there, I definitely still have a lot to learn, but that is a part of my legacy. That is a part of my charm. That is a part of my work. I managed to move deflecting with humor into using humor as medicine. So that's super fun. Not to say that I don't still deflect with humor, because I do. When I feel on the spot or embarrassed, I deflect by saying that I'm humble. So, this has been an interesting time, I think, in all of our lives. When something like this is going on, oftentimes we want to compartmentalize and think, oh, okay, I see this thing here, I'm just going to deal with this thing. Well, life says, hold on a minute. There's all the other life stuff that happens in the interim, like, oh, hi, Charlie. Like, deaths, losses, mental health issues, right? For those of you that, that I can relate to in terms of even just struggling with behaviors that come out when, we're in a time where there isn't a whole lot we can control outside of us, but my goodness, this has been an interesting opportunity to see what I can control within myself. So yeah, it's been quite a journey. I am quite fortunate because I work with a team of people that, we stay connected. We send each other memes. Every so often we tell each other, thinking of you, or how's everything going. And so in terms of like a work front here with Strength, I actually love how connected we are. I know that I've got my Strength family that I can reach out to. So I can keep going. Apart from working with Strength, I also work in essential services. Not that counseling isn't an essential service, but I actually work somewhere where I have to leave my house. And I work with a vulnerable population as well. So that's been really interesting navigating through. My partner also works in essential services. So, we both have a disinfecting process when we get home. And, what we do out there is be as conscientious and as responsible as possible, so that hopefully we contribute to flattening the curve and not to worsening it. So this last at least month has been pretty trying. I think initially when I saw it, what was going on, I thought, oh, it's happening over there. I'm like, oh, I really hope they figure it out. And then, that was just a fleeting thought. And then it's here. And I'm like, oh. So right away, my imagination starts going to movies like 28 Days and I Am Legend. And I have a very imaginative brain. So I'm like, what does this mean? So I didn't unpack too much in that imaginative fear that I have that's been contributed to by movies. But I definitely think that initially when all this was going down, I was more like an observant and not really a participant. But working in essential services, I found out quite quickly how important my contribution was in a healthy way. So yeah, I can keep talking, Amanda. I don't know if there's anything you
Yeah,
want to.
no, I appreciate what you're saying, and I appreciate that you do go to work every day, and you know, you leave the house, and despite how, you know, these are my words, but how scary that might be. I know it would be for me if I had to leave the house, and I feel fortunate that I don't have to do that. I mean, aside from going for groceries, you know, and even I was quarantined for 15 days and had to ask Jackie Rose, my business partner with the Sweat House, to get some groceries for us. And yeah, and it was, yeah, so I'm feeling really fortunate we don't have to leave, but yeah, the work that you are doing with us, I can certainly speak to, because I know most about that, and I want to thank you for it. And I've said this before, but for the efforts that you put forth in a pro bono kind of way. Like you know, when I sent a text out to the team and I said, we're running these emergency groups, who can help out? And they're free, right? Like, you know, we're doing our best to not, I said, we're not asking for any money right now. We're not, you know, we're giving away whatever we can without burning the team out. And so you're somebody who has helped us with the last emergency group, and I'm really grateful for that. And I wonder if maybe you could talk just a bit about your experience in that for others who are listening, who may, you know, find the courage to be able to reach out and say, okay, like, I do need some help. I want to come to this group at least, or I need to talk to somebody. Some people are living alone. Some people are in situations where they're living with somebody who might not be a healthy dynamic. It might be really scary. The kids are home. I mean, nobody really knows what's going on for people out there, and unless they come forward, right? And it's a really scary time. Some people are really you know, enjoying the isolation, but a lot of people aren't. So we can talk about that too. And I'm interested also in your specialization with us, which is eating disorders, which is also my specialization, and we've worked really closely together in that. And I would love for you to share just your insights on how you, maybe this isn't the right question, I don't know, but how you feel like eating disorders or problematic eating or body image issues might become more problematic, or have the possibility of becoming more problematic in what we're dealing with here, and how people can be, you know, doing their best to cope with that. So let's start with the group and just what your experience was with that.
Yeah, that emergency group's been really cool. I think, you know, I work with quite an array of human beings, and when I see certain struggles with them, especially around these times, I promote that group. I'm like, go to the emergency group. One thing I guess I want to put out to the viewers is, like, I know on a personal note that it can be daunting to go into a group, let alone online with strangers or maybe some familiars, and express how you feel. The reality is we're in a time where we have way more access to resources and technology. So interesting enough, I was having this conversation with someone the other day. I said, what a time to be in this type of crisis with the type of technology and access we have. Because, you know, it's pretty fresh, pretty new, this video conferencing stuff. And yeah, let's just call it that. So, you know, what I often tell people, even people I work with that I try and encourage to come to that emergency group, I'm like, go and hold some space. Even if you're not in a place to share what's going on for you, go and hear people out. I mean, the magic of group therapy isn't just about talking, but it's about listening, you know, sharing experience, strength, and hope, and hopefully coming away with like, phew, all right, I'm not the only one. And that's the magic of group therapy. So, you know, that initial like daunting hesitation of like, oh God, no, I'm awkward and I don't trust people. Yeah, I hear you. And the only way you're going to get over it is to get through it. So that group was, for me, was tugging on some of my heartstrings, because we had quite an assortment of human beings in circumstances that aren't necessarily the most ideal. As I was saying earlier, during this pandemic, like, it's not convenient for life to kind of just stay on schedule with whatever whatever it's going to throw at us in terms of loss and change. But we still have to cope. And the reality, I think, that is important to acknowledge is that even though for some people they may not be coping in the healthiest or mindful way, they're still coping. And so I want to acknowledge those people, just to say, like, may not be the best, but just know that in that you're not alone. Even if you're like, I'm messing up, I'm falling back on all my routines, I'm not, following my recovery plan, reach out. I myself have a therapist. I have friends, people that I can talk to. Do I talk to all of them? No, absolutely not. But I have a responsibility to myself. And I know that if I start to, because I can see when I'm not taking care of myself, if that happens, I'm like, okay, Rosa, reel it in. And I am able to reach out to this village, when we talk about community, village of people around me. So that was really neat to experience in the group, to see people kind of take a chance and be like, oh, this is kind of awkward, but let's see what it's about. And the neat thing was that everyone from their closing went away with, I'm glad I came. And that's what I want to offer to people who are hesitant about even trying out group therapy. Right now, what a time to be able to experience group therapy and not pay for it. But the other piece of it too is that the hope that, comes out of these experiences. We're constantly in the thinking part of things, and, thinking, well, that's not going to fix the fact that I, don't have somewhere to live. That's not going to fix the fact that I'm sick. That's not going to fix the fact that I'm fighting with my friend or partner all the time, because we're constantly in each other's space. The point of the group is not to fix everything. Point of the group is for us, as I said, to hold space for each other and to decompress in a healthy way, so that we're not just accessing, maladaptive behaviors that, yeah, they work in the moment to survive, but to live, like, it can really cause more suffering, more needless suffering. The ED stuff has been really interesting. I run a eating disorder group as well and work with people individually. And, I remember a colleague and I once were having a conversation, and we said that eating disorders is the least social addiction of all of them. Like, we don't, apart from, Sunday night football or buffets, like, we don't actually get together to engage in eating disordered behavior. So interesting enough, people who struggle with eating disorders, like anyone that struggles with mental health issues or even addiction issues, isolation is right there. Like, it's not convenient, but it's familiar. And oftentimes, what I've noticed in this time, and even to keep myself in check, emotional eating is quite a fine line between disordered eating. And, we're left to figure out what to do when we're bored. I'm a bit of a rebellious spirit, and I know that's hard to believe. But when I was initially told, don't go out, I'm like, oh yeah, watch me. But then I didn't do that. But there's a part of me that's like, don't tell me what to do. So I kind of want to empathize to people out there, and just, if you get that pull, I get it. It's not convenient. It's not comfortable, but it is important for us to listen and to be responsible. So ED peeps out there, if you're really struggling, if you're really isolated, if you notice that you're really engaging in behaviors out of boredom, out of despair, the usual in that sense, reach out, because there are ways to work through it. Yeah.
Talk to us. Yeah.
Yeah. And, the part I really just want to put out to people is, you don't need to know what to say. Just show up.
We'll take care of that.
Yeah. In case you didn't notice, I like to talk, so I'll definitely help in that regard. But I empathize with that too. I remember years ago when I was like, I need to go to counseling, and I'm talking like years ago. I used to be like, okay, so do I take like a PowerPoint history of my life, like, or do I start like in a storytelling type of way? And you know, I never actually had to talk about what happened to me as a child or as a teen, because it showed up in the way I managed as an adult. So therapy is quite a magic for us, you see. And hopefully, you know, like I can only attest to our team here and a few of my colleagues out in the therapy world, we're pretty fluent in being able to help each other. So if you feel you can't find the words, or you're like, I'm embarrassed, I'm ashamed, welcome to the club, man. We'll help you out with that. And I guess, you know, my big message here is that with all the people I see when I'm like, how are you doing at this time? You know, there is a commonality of like, I don't know what to do with myself, or I'm not doing very well. And that's to be expected. But what I want to offer in that is that it's not forever, even though it feels like it. It's right now. And it can be really hard to stay in the present when we're like, am I going to have to do this for 2 months, 4 months, 6 months? And what I say to myself when I think like that is, it doesn't matter. That time's not here right now. What am I doing right now that's helping me? And so I find that if I'm obsessing or getting scared about stuff that hasn't happened yet, that means I'm not being present, not being, you know, in my body when that's going down. So I know that the most immediate is me and where I am and how I'm treating myself. So yeah, I guess something I do want to offer to the viewers, and Amanda and I've talked a bit about this in terms of what's convenient during a pandemic. Like I said, we like to compartmentalize things, right? Do we want loss? No, because we're trying to figure out how to stay indoors. In the last month, I've lost someone to addiction, and I lost my oldest cat. It's not convenient. It sucks. I'm being really good here, Amanda. I haven't sworn once, but I've really wanted to swear.
You're doing really good. We both are. Not swearing.
I am doing so good. If any of my clients see me, look at me, you guys. Not even one swear word in the last 15 minutes. This is impressive. So I can do it. But anyway, as you can see, I've got one of my guys here. I'm a cat lover. I've had 4 cats consistently for the last 15 years, and my oldest boy passed away. And it wasn't sudden. You know, we were doing the palliative care thing with him in this last month, and it kind of worked because, you know, I wasn't constantly out of my house. So I got to spend some time with him, which I'm grateful for, but not convenient. And I don't think that death or loss of any kind is supposed to be convenient in any way. But I know the selfish part of me says, like, can this just, like, can I be okay, or be like feel pretty ready for a death or a loss? And the answer is no, even though I try to tell myself I need all these elements to be aligned for me to be okay. Grief is grief is grief, you know. And so in these times, I look at like, haha, I see what you're doing there, life. Okay, what do I do with this? Do I completely like implode and tell everybody I'm okay? Or do I practice being honest and saying, you know, kind of sucks. And I say sucks not to minimize the experience, because I'd rather swear about it. But I'm just, it's sad. So I spoke a little bit just about the village, right? Like our community, who our people are. I have a few people in my life. I have a friend who we won't talk for periods of time, and we'll pick up where we leave off. And, you know, I'm sure you guys have heard of that or might experience it yourself. But we know we have a window between 3:30 and 4 p.m. every day that if we look at the clock and we know that that time is there, we can connect with each other. And I love having that. I don't call her every day. She doesn't call me every day, but I have it and I try it and it works. So there's been little things that have been helpful. Putting out to people that, you know, that friend had passed and that my cat had passed. a little hesitant because I'm like, I don't know if I really want to broadcast this. And I'm like, you know what? Like, that these are important people in our lives. People, pets, they're my people. So why wouldn't I want to share that I'm in pain? Because it's not pain that I caused. That, I think, when we inflict pain, we're like, oh shit, I feel really embarrassed I did that. Oh, I just said my first swear word. Woo! That was like 20 something minutes without a swear word. Anyway, so what I want to offer
It
is,
was a tame swear,
and it was
Rosa.
like, it slid in. I was like, hey, I saw you.
And just for context for our viewers, like we usually, when we start, we meet someone new, and we do this individually also, we'll say, are you okay with swearing? And 9 times out of 10 people are like, yeah, whatever, and kind of breaks the ice, and that's cool. And 1 times out of 10, people are like,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, so because we can't ask permission from our viewers, we're being careful today, but we have this culture here where it's just like, we're so human about our experiences, and I don't want to divert too much, Rosa, from what you're saying, but we just share a humanness in our team and with our client population. And I say that, but it's like family, like all of us, like the whole lot of everybody, including our clients, are family to us. And so we can show up in our unapologetic selves, professionally, of course, but also in a place of humanness, to show people that we're just the same as you. We cry just like you. Like last night, I sat at the kitchen table and I had some tears about losses that I've experienced. And Rosa, my heart is full that you chose to share that today, for other people to see, because people are out there experiencing grief, and me too, right? And the uncertainty of everything. And so yeah, I've had some tears, and then I like pick myself up and dust myself off, and then I have some more tears, and then I have some laughter, and like that's kind of the way it goes. But anyway, the long and short of it is that our humanness shows up in our swearing, and that's why we're talking about that.
That's how we justify our swearing.
Yeah, but we've both been very, very good, very respectful, and because it's we don't know who's watching, so
no. And
come on down and meet us in a virtual individual presence, and you'll get to know the ins and outs of who we are, and it's pretty cool to watch.
Yeah. And I think that's, an important piece of this is also knowing, like, it doesn't really define us. And I think that, like, there's family systems that look different, right? Some never swear, and that's super cool. And that's why, like, it's a disclaimer usually in the beginning. I'm like, so heads up. But if you don't like it, I'll shut it down. And usually the response is with a swear word. And then I'm like, my people. What I often like to tell people is that with swearing, for example, is I don't swear at you and I don't swear about people. But I feel very passionate about certain words. But anyhow, thank you, Amanda, for bringing that up, because, man, I had hoped like some of my clients would see this and try to, see how often I swear so they could bring it to session and be like, Rosa.
We'll see the comments in there like, wow, Rosa.
I'm thinking they might be impressed with me because of how much I'm not swearing.
Okay, and for the record, like we don't promote a culture of swearing here. I'm not suggesting that. We promote a culture of humanness, like unapologetic humanness, where we can show up in our truths in a professional way that fits for whoever we're working with, right? So they show up in their truth, and we will meet them and mirror them in a way that works to sustain and allow the relationship to thrive. So for anybody who is perhaps put off by this conversation, where we meet people where they are, and we show them who we are, because I will never promote a culture where the counselor is above the client. We're all participants, and there's no pedestal here. We are in the boat with you, and we are paddling with you. And it's interesting that some clients that we see, they say, oh, that's really different than what I've experienced in the past. Like some experiences of clients might suggest that counselors are so prim and proper, and it's like, oh, tell me how that feels. And it's like yeah, we do have to say that, but but it's not cut and dry like that. There's just a rawness of being human that shows up here on our team, and it's so beautiful. And I live in that. Like, we do, I'm not going to speak for you, Rosa, I'll speak for myself, but I practice what I preach, and I promote this on our team, because if we're listening to what we're saying and we're following suit, then we're not hypocrites in our work. And like, Rosa, what you said earlier, you have a counselor. Me too, right? Like, we're not any different. I cry just like you do, you know? So I just want to get that point across, that we're not just a bunch of jokers, you know, running around swearing all the time. Like, we just share our humanness, and we invite you to share your humanness with us in a way that you can test the acceptance that we're offering to you. Right?
Yeah. That was a very eloquent disclaimer. I liked it. It was very user-friendly. I appreciate your language, Amanda.
Well,
I should have this blurb in my video and get my clients to watch it initially and be like, watch this and tell me how you feel. Yeah, so there's a few things that I think I've said that already a few times, but I'm going to say it again. So there's a couple things, change up on word, that I want to offer to our viewers in this time. One of the main things is forgiveness. There's no perfect remedy for what's going on. People are losing their jobs. People's partners are losing their jobs. So there's stress. Kids are home. Parents, you know, I've heard from some teachers how they're trying to collaboratively work with, you know, providing online tools for parents and their kids. And I think that's super rad, but not everybody is getting that. And so these are some tough times for people. And why I say forgiveness is because, you know, we want to protect our people and love them and tell them they're safe. And when we're doing that, we oftentimes forget to tell ourselves that. And sometimes we do things without thinking. And so always to try and circle back to self-compassion, you know. And that's been a theme I've noticed throughout this process since this has been going down with the pandemic, is people recognize they're not doing their best, and some of the responses is to be like, you know, I suck, or I'm stupid, or I'm weak. And you know what I can offer to you in that is you're human, and none of us are perfect. There is no such thing, even though we strive for perfection. We've all done it. We're all guilty of it. The forgiveness piece is a big one. And breathing, my goodness, do we forget to breathe? Breathing is such an important tool, sometimes to save us from making decisions that we'll regret later. But, you know, breathing really does help with getting us back into our bodies. And, you know, for people out there, body dysmorphia, eating disorder, disordered behaviors, whatever, I know that your body may not be or feel like the safest place to be, but one thing that is certain is that you have lived up until this point and you have survived it all. So our bodies are more stronger and resilient than we actually want to give them credit for. Yeah, so I want to just share a couple things I've been doing that I've found helpful. I know I've shared a few, but I found something recently that is incredibly fun. My little introvert heart, yes, believe it or not, I'm an ambivert, so I'm on the pendulum of introvert and extrovert, back and forth. But it is my introvert heart, and I'll explain why. There is a game online called Drawful, like draw and awful together in one word, Drawful, and it's by a company called jackboxgames.com. And
can I just interject for 1 second and say, for anybody who watched the video from yesterday, this is the game I was talking about. Thank you.
Yeah. So this game, for lack of better words, is a godsend. So this game is about a bunch of people get on screen, and we get like each player receives a weird and unique prompt that on their phones, and we have to draw it. We have to draw it. We have to guess it. We vote for which one we think is the best. And you can get real fun with this, right? And I mean, you can keep it PG. No surprise, I don't. And so you can play up to, I think it's 8 players. And so what myself and a group of our friends have been doing is been using Zoom, and one of our friends who sets it up, casts it onto our devices.
Mhm.
So you've got this screen and it starts to show people's words. We start drawing them. We don't know necessarily whose words is whose. And the first time we played, it was 4 of us, my partner and I and 2 friends on screen. And we each had our like cell phones, and then we watched it on the computer. And we played for just under 2 hours, and we're like, oh, time went by. Like, that's cool. And it was really funny because we're all in it laughing, and I'm like, okay, bye. And my friends are like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go now. And they're like, okay. And it was neat. All I had to do was close off my computer screen, and I was sitting on my couch. I didn't have to drive anywhere.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah, it was so fun. And my partner and I looked at each other and we're like, it felt like as if we had gone out and hung out with friends. Like, and then last weekend we played again, and this time there were 6 people. We played for almost 4 hours.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about Jackbox games is there's more than just drawful. There's make up your own jokes, and they're kind of like kid jokes. It's pretty funny unless you throw in words that are not kid friendly. There was a role models game. So based on people's responses, they would tell you who was the most square, who was the most smart, who was the, the friendliest. And that was super fun to watch because there were some people in our dynamic that didn't know each other well. So those that knew each other well knew what to pick and be like, right on the money. That's how that person is. But for like new people that were in there, no one really knew. So it was cool for that person to be like, oh, I didn't know that people could see that about me, or that would think that about me. So the advantages of playing this game is you literally can get up and walk to your bathroom. You don't have to drive anywhere. You can walk away and prep a snack or have dinner going and be like, yeah, I'll be right there, and you're like playing the game on your phone. Super fun. And the great part about it is like I'm seeing my friends, and it's like, and it feels, because I think the connection, and even with the new people that were in there, I'm like, I want to get to know you because I'm watching you. I did receive feedback yesterday from people who were telling me, and I want to put this out to everybody in the world, because the world's going to see this, Amanda, by the way. We're going to be so famous.
Yeah.
I've heard often about how the connection isn't the same online as it would be in person. And one thing I want to offer to people in this is like, check your attitude around that. I have people saying to me, well, I dread going in, or I'm like, I don't really feel connected, so I go and I don't even pay attention. And so checking attitude is just around, if you're telling yourself it's going to be a shit time, it's going to be a shit time. That's my 3rd swear word, by the way. I've been counting. If you go in with an attitude of, this is an hour of my day, this is an opportunity, because as it stands, we can't go outside. Like we can, but we can't. We're socially distancing, right? It's still there, right? In a time of technology and access, it would be great to be able to hug. Like, I would love to give Amanda a hug, but I can't. But I get to see Amanda, and I'm like, there she is. And that warms my heart. And for those of you that meet people and you're like, we do this in person, by the way, in case you guys thought you were real subtle about this, where you're like, nobody can tell that I'm judging someone. We do it. Whether it's on screen or in person, if we don't know someone, we'll gauge them. So that doesn't really change when we do this means of communication. So in terms of what's going on right now in the world and our access to technology and resources, eat it all up, my friends, because this is what we've got. And the attitude piece is knowing if you're not being gentle with yourself and saying, this time is for me, it's a time to connect. It may not be the most ideal way I want to connect, but it is a form of connection. If you go in with that attitude, you'll come out with a better attitude. So I wanted to empathize with people, and that I get it, that it may feel as impersonal, but it's like, I'm still me, Amanda's still her. those games I play with my friends, they're still there. And actually at the end, I said to my friends, I'm like, I would actually prefer to do this with you guys and see you in person. They're like, what? I'm like, it's the convenience of being on my couch and not having to drive, right? So we have to cultivate joy where we can find it, you know, whether it's having little dance parties at home and forcing your cats to dance with you. That's what I do. You know, whether it's preparing a meal with a loved one or on your own, and, you know, and just being in a, like, I practice being in a place of gratitude of like, I have a home and I have food. You know, there are things I can be grateful for. I have friends, you know, and for those of you that are like, well, I don't have a home and I struggle with having food, what I want to offer to you is that reach out. We are a community that, you know, and I'm not talking just strength, but just all around us, there are people that are willing to help. I did an ice cream run on Sunday where I dropped ice cream outside of people's houses and then texted them, was like, you got ice cream outside? And they're like, are you kidding me? You know, and some of these people had kids and they're just like, whoa. So, you know, even though it may be hard to ask for help, even if you have a hard time saying, I need help, even just putting out there, you know, I'm lonely, I'm sad, this is hard. It's a good key indicator. This is hard. If you can try and practice doing that, you'll see what comes back. And this is the emergency group that we do. Not only is it free, but it is a place to come and practice being able to hold space for yourself, to be able to say, I'm not doing great. And then we'll do our best to support you, to guide you, and to remind you you're not alone. So I can talk forever, to be honest with you. But.
So I appreciate all that, Rosa. And I just think about, you know, sometimes we do reach out and we might subtly reach out to a friend and say, hey, like, here's an example, you know, hey, I'm just wondering if you want to, you know, have a chat. And the friend goes, no, you know, I'm not really interested in that. But what's happening is that the person who wants the chat isn't like actually saying, I need a chat. They're saying, hey, do you want to like hang out, you know, virtually? You want to hang out, and it's just like casual. And so sometimes we don't know that people are actually asking for help. So keep that in mind too. And to come back to the person and say like, how are you doing? Like actually ask people. And then on the other hand, it's like, if you reach out to ask for help, watch how you're doing that. Watch what wording you're using. If you're actually saying, I really need this, versus, hey, you want to hang out? It's a very different message, right? So how we ask for help is really important, because sometimes it can be misconstrued that when we say, hey, you want to hang out, and I'm actually asking for help, and then the friend says, no, I can't, or whatever, because they don't deem it as vital as it might be for you. And then we may feel rejected, like, oh, well, I asked for help and it wasn't there. So be mindful of what your part is in reaching out. And sometimes we might actually reach out and say, I need help, and somebody else on the other end says, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I can't do that for you, or I can't support you. Ask again, somewhere else. Ask someone else, right? And if you have nobody to ask, because that's a reality for some people, ask us. That's why we're here, right? We have lots of support that we can offer. And if we can't, for whatever reason, we're going to find a way to help you get what you need in the best realistic way possible. So just my message here is just really a couple things. Really be mindful of what your part is in taking care of yourself, taking responsibility for what you need. And that's along the lines of, you know, when you're dealing with hard emotions, but also like having fun. Like I love what Rosa has shared here about the game. And guess what? I'm going to do that, right? And actually, I may have mentioned this in another video cast, but I'm going to do a dinner with some friends. We're going to make the same thing. And, you know, we're going to sit and have a dinner. And the conversation, or the quality of the conversation, is, because I know these people, it's going to be the same as it would be if we were sitting there in front of them, right? So I'm really excited to try out the game. And yeah, I think that'll be great. So thank you for sharing that, and for all the viewers here, I appreciate that, because yesterday I couldn't remember what it's called. So yeah, that might be a really natural place to close today. I really appreciate you taking the time, Rosa, to be here, because I'm aware of how much free stuff you do. And I say this to you, and I also say it to all our team members too, because we also run a donation program, which all of the counselors, including myself, we see people for free at all times. And of course, I mean, it makes sense. The program is quite popular, and we have a waiting list and things like that, but we do our best, and we offer 10 weeks of free service to anybody who needs it because they can't pay. And so there's that. We always do that. And now, we're doing these videos, and we're doing the emergency groups, and I'm just really like beside myself I don't know how to say it. Like, I just love all of you so much, because you're willing to come with me as I step up and do this with me, right? And there's no complaints. There's no like, oh, I wish you would pay us. Like, it's not that. It's so beautiful, and we're going to continue to do this, in a realistic way, because we don't want to burn out, right? So we have to be careful about that, but we're going to continue to do this as long as we need to. And so just email us, and if you have supports, wonderful. Go and play the game with your friends, because you'll have a great time. Right? So that's kind of my closing. And Rosa, I just want to express a lot of gratitude for you, not only for this time and all the free work that you do with our patients, but also just your friendship and who you are as a human, and what you bring to my life.
Thanks, Amanda. And yeah, this has been really neat. I don't that word free, when you had reached out for who would like to do it, I just literally had put my cat down, and I was feeling really sad, and I thought to myself, I'm gonna sit in this in a while. And then I get this text, and I said, on it, no problem, like not even a hesitation. So I often just look at, like, how can I be of service in more ways than one. So it's been an honor, just even, and like, I love you as a human being. So as I said to you before, I will stand by you and the rest of our team. And yeah, and that message you put out to everybody out there, like, we'll stand right by you, right beside you. I often like to say to people, you're driving the bus, I'm holding the map. I suck at directions, but I'm great at communicating. So I may not know exactly where we're going, but we'll figure it out together.
I love that. I've never heard that before, so I'm going to use that.
Thank you.
Can I borrow it?
You may use it. That's fine.
Thanks. Yeah, so that's great. What a beautiful interaction. And I hope that for those of you who are watching, share it, pass it on. If it's been supportive for you, it could be supportive for others. So that's great. That's great, Rosa. So yeah, we'll text later and connect when we need to.
Thank you. Take care of your heart. Bye.